Hey, what's up, guys? This is Colin Reese. I wanted to talk about what's going wrong with the U.S. men's national team's tactics after this El Salvador game and what needs to be fixed going forward. So, against El Salvador, Gregg Berhalter once again trotted out his 4-3-3 formation. And with this 4-3-3, he always has a front three that has two wings and a striker, and he never has a 10 behind two strikers, for example, in the front three. It's always two wings. And there's a couple problems with this. The first one is in modern soccer, and this goes back a long time actually. You're supposed to get your width from your outside backs. That's why, Brazil are really famous for their outside backs bombing down the sideline and being like an integral part of the attack, and why every big club team in the world has really elite outside backs that are really strong in the attack. Like, it's not good enough just to be a defender. The attacking is almost more important than the defending, but you have to be a good enough defender to be able to stop the opposing team's attackers. But with the U.S. men's national team, we don't need wide wings in the front three when we have these outside backs. And so the reason that Gregg Berhalter does it like this is he has the front three as like an integral part of his high pressing, and too much of his tactics are focused on high pressing. And the point is to win the ball back as soon as possible and kind of force mistakes, and then you kind of break as soon as you get as soon as you like steal the ball off of the press. You're supposed to break towards the opposing team's goal. So it's essentially like counter-attacking football. And in real soccer, the tactics are based on constant passing and moving with 1 to 2 touch soccer. And every time someone gets the ball, they're supposed to have two passing options. So your teammates are always supposed to be either, running towards the ball, or they're supposed to be like making a run into space. So they're supposed to be, showing for the ball as a passing option, or making some sort of run into space. And rather than focusing on this, the U.S. focuses on high pressing because it's really in vogue with Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, and a lot of other managers. And Gregg Berhalter essentially seems to be, just copying what tactics are in style right now. But if you look at like Brazil or France play when their national teams are playing, they don't play this way. Their play is based on skill soccer and constantly passing and moving. And this is a much better way to play. And when you're doing the high pressing, you're often like almost running out of control because your front three is just constantly running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And it wastes a lot of energy, and it also just kind of creates this like frenetic, out of control atmosphere and game, and that's not what you want. And I think the U.S. needs to, stop playing like this and go to more possession-based attacking soccer. And one of the other things you'll see the U.S. doing is, like in the last game against El Salvador, you probably noticed that like players like Weston McKennie would frequently kind of collect the ball kind of deep and then turn and bolt forward and like blaze past people, which is really, really good. But he would, there was a lot of like bombing long passes in the air, and actually a lot of them were hitting their target. So it was fun to watch, but still there was a degree of like overly fast, chaotic soccer. And there's nothing wrong with playing fast and moving the ball around fast, but this feels, beyond fast and just kind of rushed. And I think the U.S. men's national team and, all the people involved in U.S. soccer are really kind of biased towards the English Premier League. And the English Premier League is where you see this really out of control, like frantic, frenetic play. And you don't see it as much in like Serie A or La Liga or the Bundesliga. Those leagues are a little more based on skill and creativity, and there is skill and creativity in the English Premier League, but the English Premier League feels like really just like too fast. People are constantly high pressing and running around, like I said, with like they're like chickens with their heads cut off. They're playing passes almost too fast. And it's, they're just hitting like bullet passes to players that are marked. And, you're supposed to move the ball around quickly, but you'll notice that these games kind of lack some of the smooth passing, like artistry you see when Brazil plays, or when you see in Serie A or La Liga. Obviously, there are teams in England that pass the ball well, but still, when you're watching an English Premier League game, it almost feels like it's out of control, and that the running is out of control, and they put such an emphasis on nonstop running that like no one has like even a millisecond to try to play better, more creative passes, because you're just instantly kind of crushing a pass to someone as soon as it comes to you. And I think the US is playing like this too much, and they need to be focusing and modeling their soccer off of Brazil or Barcelona or Real Madrid, as opposed to like this really out of control English Premier League style play. And I think we saw against El Salvador that it was just really kind of out of control. And one of the other problems we saw was, I've said this a bunch of times, but there's still no playmaker. And Gregg Berhalter is really hell-bent on not starting a playmaker. And Christian Pulisic actually seemed to be getting criticized for doing what he was supposed to, which was he was playing left wing and he was dropping back and kind of playing centrally like a 10, and he was getting out of the way of the outside backs bombing up and down the sideline. But he was playing where he was supposed to be playing, but also Jesus Ferreira was dropping deep because that's kind of how he plays. He likes pulling the strings some. So there was a lot of people criticizing Pulisic for dropping back and getting in his way, and then people said like Yunus Musa was also kind of there. But Christian Pulisic is supposed to be doing that. The other players need to adjust their movements and their positions accordingly. So I really found it surprising like how many people were ragging on Christian Pulisic for doing what he was supposed to do. And without a playmaker, like a real number 10 to be feeding him balls, he was frequently collecting the ball and then trying to beat multiple defenders at once. And he's pretty much supposed to be doing this unless he has someone to pass to. But people were criticizing Pulisic instead of criticizing the lack of an attacking midfielder. And it looks like we're probably not gonna see a lineup where a real attacking midfielder is used. We could, it would be nice if we used like the diamond 4-4-2 formation with an attacking midfielder as the point of the diamond behind the two strikers. And I wonder if Gregg Berhalter has kind of learned his lesson about how his Way and Pulisic were kind of in the same areas as the outside backs. And really you're supposed to let the outside backs handle the wide play and crossing. And it almost seems like a waste of Timothy Weah to play him out wide on the right. I know a couple of people like how he plays there, but he's such a good player that what you're really liking is just his style of play and his speed and his skill set. It's not really that he's playing on the right. You just like how he plays, and he needs to be used more centrally, because with all of his skill and speed, he needs to be in a better position to score when he gets the ball and then when he's beating defenders. Because when he's out on the right wing, he's at this kind of bad angle where, he can only kind of score near post and the goalie's covering the near post. And, he could cross to the far post or he could put it on his left and try to curl it in. But really in a more central role, when he received the ball, he'd be in front of the goal and he would be able to pick far post or near post, and he could just go whichever way he wanted and be in front of the goal mouth. So he's kind of being wasted out wide, and it's all because Gregg Berhalter thinks it's more important to maintain this pressing instead of just putting his really skilled players in their correct positions and in a formation where they're in a better place to succeed. And I don't know if you're going to see Gregg Berhalter change this, but it's, that's the real reason that he's not a great coach, is because of his insistence on forcing players to fit into his system instead of adjusting his formations and tactics based on his personnel. And that's really what we need to see. And a lot of people have been really focused on, when he calls in several MLS players, people will refer to him as Berhalter's boys or Gregg's guys. But, Berhalter's also calling in a ton of European players to every roster. So they're just as much, Gregg's guys as the MLS guys. But the MLS people are discredited as kind of being biased picks, but then all the other people that are picked every time aren't considered biased picks. And you can obviously see the flaw in this logic. And that's not the real problem with Berhalter. The real problem, like I said, is the tactics and the emphasis on the high pressing and then the no playmaker. It's really just, it's a non-starter to not use a playmaker. Like if you were going to talk to someone about the tactics that you wanted them to use, and you tried to tell them like, oh, well, I don't want you to use an attacking midfielder. They, if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't agree to that kind of formation. And it's just anyone that really knows anything about soccer, that ever played soccer or watches a lot, that the top teams use a playmaker, and it's a key role, obviously, to link the midfield and the attack and to set up goals, which is the most important thing in soccer. So I think people need to stop focusing on, the couple MLS players that Berhalter is calling up. The people in MLS are a lot better than they used to be, and the MLS players that are on the national team are also a lot better than some of the MLS players that used to be on the national team in the past, but not necessarily. But people are really just focusing on the wrong thing. They're focused on these couple MLS guys, and the real problem is the coach's tactics. And our players aren't being put in the right position to succeed. So going forward against Canada and Honduras, I think it would really benefit the team to stop using outside forwards and to look to play more like smooth, under control passing, but still fast, and not play this kind of almost totally out of control English Premier League style soccer. So thanks everyone for tuning in. See you next time.